CRN. And welcome. It is time for Richard Nixon Live, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world on CRN Digital Talk Radio. That's CRNTOC.com. We're also streaming live on Facebook, facebook.com/CRNTOC. And I'm joined by Richard Nixon. He's a practicing attorney. He's a Vietnam-era veteran. He's got a bachelor's in physics, a doctorate of law, and he's author of America, An Illusion of Freedom, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and as well as iTunes. And so we are so happy to be here. It's the Legal Lounge. We are talking all things legal, all things constitutional with the constitutional scholar himself. Richard, sir, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. How about you, Mike?
Oh, very well. Thank you, sir. And we are so happy to be here. Give us a call, 818-818-6401. That's 818-818-6401. And also, if you're on Facebook and watching the video, feel free to leave a comment or a question next to the video in the chat feature, and we'd be more than willing to answer that. And we're going to have a great show today. We are doing this live, broadcasting live, coast to coast and around the world, and we're going to talk a lot today about some very important issues regarding the Constitution, legality, and immigration, and spend a lot. We're going to talk a lot about the enumeration of powers. It's going to be a very, very interesting show. And if you guys want to know more about these kind of topics we discuss, make sure to check out Richard's book, America, An Illusion of Freedom. If you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube right now, you can visit Richard's website. It's at www.pres37thwix.com/America, where you can order his book there as well. And so, Richard, we got a lot to get into today, but first off, I think we want to get into a very important article in the Constitution that's relevant today and in the news. Article 1, Section 8, and it's the, some call it the enumeration of powers of Congress, but can you give us, our listeners, a little bit of background about that particular section?
Yes, Mike, as we had said in previous sessions, in 1789, when the Founding Fathers created the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8 was basically the enumerated powers given to Congress. And briefly it says, the Congress shall have the power to, and it lists 17 enumerated powers, express powers, like to borrow money on the credit of the United States, to establish post offices and post roads. And number 18, which we've talked about before too, the so-called necessary and proper clause, basically said that the Congress is also authorized to do whatever is necessary and proper to carry out and put into effect the previous 17 powers. And today we'll be discussing Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, to lay and collect taxes and to pay for the common defense and general welfare of the United States.
And that's an important point, because we've talked before on this show about how the way the process of way we are governed today is not the way that the Founding Fathers intended. And this, we're going to, we talked before about how the Supreme Court is really the one that make law now, but we're also going to talk about how the federal government specifically will withhold funds, the power of the purse, as you say,
yes,
in order to control the states and therefore the people. And we're going to get into that real hard right after the break, you guys, so stay with us. Richard Nixon, he's an attorney, he's an author, he's a scientist, he's a constitutional scholar. Check out his book, America, An Illusion of Freedom, available on Amazon.com, iTunes, as well as Barnes & Noble. We'll be right back, you guys. If you have any questions for us, give us a call, 818-818-6401. We'll be right back right after the break. More with Richard Nixon Live, the Legal Lounge, here on CRN Digital Talk Radio.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
And we are back. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge here on CRN Digital Talk Radio. That's CRNTOC.com, streaming live coast to coast and around the world. CRNTalk.com, as well as on Facebook, Facebook.com/CRNTalk. Make sure to check us out, to send us a note, to give us a call, 818-818-6401. That's 818-818-6401. Once again, I'm joined by Richard Nixon. He's a practicing attorney, Vietnam-era vet, BA in physics, doctor of law, and author as well. And we always like to say this as well. If you guys knew Richard, if you personally knew Richard during his time of service, stateside and also as a contractor in country as well in Vietnam, let us know. Give us a call, 818-818-6400, and we would love to provide you with a free book for all. Anybody, if you knew Richard personally, because we always like to connect veterans who knew each other in service over the years. It's a very special thing that we do here at CRN Digital Talk Radio. And also, speaking of free books, if you listen to last week's show, you may, this rarely ever happens, Richard Nixon, he's brilliant. He's an absolute genius when it comes to this law stuff, but it happens every once in a while. Sometimes, you can only remember so many cases. And there was a case that was misnamed last week. And so if you want to go through the archives, any lawyers out there, I'm looking at you, Royal Oaks, if you, any of you guys can find out that case that was misnamed and name the correct case, we will also send you a free book. Give us a call, 818-818-6401. Let's get back right into it. We were talking about the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, specifically the enumeration of powers of Congress. Like you said, Richard, there is 18 specific powers, for example, to borrow money on the credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations, and to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Also, you said something during the prep, too, but there's another concept called enumerated powers versus implied powers. Can you compare and contrast those two?
Well, yes. The first 17, in other words, to establish post offices and post roads, those are pretty express. They're called the enumerated powers. But there's an 18th power called the necessary and proper clause, which is implied because what it means is that the Congress is also authorized to do whatever is necessary and proper to carry into effect the first 17. And so that's why it's called an implied power. And again, the Supreme Court saw to it in 1819 under McCulloch versus Maryland to change the words from necessary and proper to simply convenient or appropriate. Oh. So it expanded Congress's power to do not what was necessary, but what was convenient.
And the language here from the original text of this of Article 1, Section 8 is from the 18th power, the implied power, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by the Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. That sounds like a blank check to me.
Yes. Well, it is, except this is why Thomas Jefferson railed against the Supreme Court when they ignored the fact necessary. As Jefferson pointed out correctly, necessary means just that. In other words, you can't do anything you want to do, Congress. You can only do those things which are enumerated here, 1 through 17, and whatever else is absolutely necessary to carry into effect. In other words, if these 17 would be essentially nugatory, then you have a right to do whatever is necessary to make them viable, to make them alive.
Are there any examples you can think of off the top of your head where, the implied powers have become law? Anything controversial, that we can discuss?
Well, again, what happened in the McCullough versus Maryland case, the 1819 case, is yes, what the issue was before the court was whether or not Congress could incorporate a national bank.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court under Chief Justice Marshall actually said neither incorporation nor incorporating a bank is in the Constitution, but he is held to be one of the most brilliant jurists we've ever had, and sure enough, he wrote a decision basically saying it was constitutional for Congress to incorporate a bank, even though neither one of those things are in the Constitution. The way he did it was to redefine the necessary and proper clause and say Congress should do whatever is appropriate. Since Congress can coin money and it does handle the banks and it does provide for counterfeiting and so on, it only makes sense that we should not embarrass Congress but allow them to do whatever is necessary to do that, which would include incorporating a national bank.
Yeah, and before that, the states had their state banks,
Absolutely.
but not a federal bank.
Absolutely. And as Jefferson said, we're doing just fine with the state banks.
Mm-hmm.
But now the issue today, of course, is there's a case, a constitutional law case by the Ninth Circuit. Basically, the city and county of San Francisco and the county of Santa Clara brought an injunction against President Trump, who's trying to limit the amount of money that is appropriated to the sanctuary city jurisdictions. And this case basically was brought by these cities and counties to basically stop the president from enforcing the withdrawal of those funds.
Well, let me just give you some background here. There's been a lot of discussion in the news recently about immigration, and several cities, in the more liberal cities, San Francisco, for example, and
Right.
I believe Austin, Texas, and New York City have declared themselves "quote unquote" sanctuary cities, where
Right.
they would not enforce federal law, federal immigration law,
Yes.
in these particular cities. And so President Trump signed an executive order saying that he was willing to withhold funds, federal funds, to these specific cities for not following federal law. And I believe that's the issue, right?
Yes, it is. And 2-1, it's a Ninth Circuit panel of 3, and 2-1 ruled that it was beyond the president's authority, since the Congress had authorized the appropriation of these funds. It was beyond the authority of the president to somehow withhold those funds. And so they start off with talking about Article 1, Section 8, which we talked about before. This time they're talking about Clause 1. The very first clause basically says, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. So basically, the issue is, what does it mean, since Congress can levy the taxes to pay for the common defense and general welfare? How do we define general welfare? Well, Thomas Jefferson early on limited general welfare to including the first 17 or the succeeding 17 enumerated powers. That is to say that Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 was not an additional power. It was simply a general power which was fleshed in by the remaining 16, if you will, express powers. Since then, though, the Supreme Court has expanded what was meant by the general welfare.
That's very interesting. And we're heading to a break real fast, and I want to dive deep into this right after the break, you guys, because I think this is a very important issue. And you guys, if you want to know more about these constitutional issues, make sure to visit Richard's website, which is available on the video you are seeing right now, as well as check out his book, America, An Illusion of Freedom, available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, as well as iTunes. We'll be right back, you guys. And if you want to chime in, give us a call, 818-818-6401, or hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/CRNTOCOM.
Come to Angelos and Vincis Restaurante to see memorabilia of movie stars and theatrical magic right in downtown Fullerton, California. The Art of the Great Masters in an Italian town square complete with storefronts of old, Italian butchers and cheesemongers, fruit and wine vendors, seamstresses showing their wares, the romance of Romeo and Juliet. Find our mystical Room of the Moon, and don't forget King Kong, Dracula, Frankenstein, and who knows what awaits you in the wine cellar. Enjoy the great food. We hand stuff our pastas, roll each and every tortellini, bake our own bread, and make all of our sauces fresh from our private stock of Sicilian family recipes. Pasta to seafood, chicken to award-winning pizzas, tiramisu flown in from Rome. If you can't find something on our menu to tempt you, you don't like Italian food. Try our Sunday brunch, all you can eat, just $21.95. And Angelos and Vincis has been named the best Italian restaurant in Orange County 2 years in a row, and our owner has been named Restaurateur of the Year. Angelos and Vincis, Fullerton, California, 714-879-4022 or angelosandvincis.com.
The smartest way for you to get the lowest prices on your plane tickets, domestic or international, is to call Smartfares first or last, but you've got to call us before you book your plane tickets. Fly anywhere in the world, fly anywhere in the U.S., and Smartfares can save you up to 75% on your plane tickets. We have the lowest airline ticket prices on over 500 airlines, and you've got a great 12-hour free cancellation window. Plus, with our live agent help, you can always get fast help and fast answers. So on your next trip, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, how about right now? Pick up your phone and call Smartfares, plus save up to 75% on your plane reservation. So call right now. 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS? News flash, the president has changed the tax laws, and now you may be able to pay the IRS less. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, the tax doctor can help you pay the IRS as little as possible allowed by law. There are new tax laws for business owners, the self-employed, even W-2 workers. If you have a back tax problem or a few years of unfilled returns, new help to save you money is now here. Call right now to see how the new tax laws can help you. Plus, right now, we'll waive the consultation fee and give you a free tax savings report. Attention business owners, the self-employed, and W-2 workers. Make this free call to the tax doctor now and learn how to take advantage of the new tax laws that may help you pay the IRS less. 800-985-1610. 800-985-1610. 800-985-1610. That's 800-985-1610.
We are back here. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, streaming live coast to coast and around the world on CRNTOC.com. Also, you can watch us on YouTube, also on Facebook. Just go to YouTube, search CRN Talk. Go to Facebook, search CRN Talk, and we are everywhere. Also, if you have an Amazon Echo or another smart speaker available, just say, hey, Alexa, listen to CRN1 on TuneIn. Alexa, listen to CRN1 on TuneIn, and it's right there. We are everywhere with you around the world. We are here with Richard Nixon. He's a practicing attorney, a Vietnam-era veteran. He has a bachelor's in physics, a doctorate of law, and he's author of America, An Illusion of Freedom, available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and as well as iTunes. And we were talking before the break about the necessary and proper clause, specifically enumerated in McCullough versus Marbury. And one of my favorite founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, had a very interesting quote regarding that case. Richard, please let us hear it.
Yes, well, Thomas Jefferson, again, was not a fan of Chief Justice Marshall, who had made two major faux pas as far as Thomas Jefferson was concerned. The first one was Marbury versus Madison, where he said that the Supreme Court could void acts of Congress. Second, in 1819, Chief Justice Marshall said that the necessary and proper clause, which is part of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18, that the necessary and proper clause really didn't mean necessary and proper. It simply meant whatever was appropriate or convenient for the Congress to do, which expanded Congress's power over the states and the people. Anyway, in response to that, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, Thomas Jefferson said the following, and I quote from my own book: "I consider the foundation of the Constitution as laid on this ground, that all powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states or to the people." Now, of course, he was simply reciting the 10th Amendment. That was obviously enacted in 1791. Then he says something that I think is very sensitive: "To take a single step beyond the boundaries thus specially drawn around the powers of Congress is to take possession of a boundless field of power no longer susceptible of any definition." So what he's saying is, as soon as you make a step over this sphere of influence that the Founding Fathers have given Congress, then there's no longer any limits to it, and it goes on forever, essentially.
I love that language, the boundless field of power.
Yes.
That's what it is. I mean, once you, like you said, when they take because the Article 1, Section 8, the powers are enumerated very, very specifically, the first 17 of them. And the 18th, it just throws it all out the window and says, hey, we can do whatever we want now. Right.
Then he goes on to say, now, we're on Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, excuse me. "To lay taxes to provide for the general welfare," that is to say, to lay taxes for the purpose of providing for the general welfare. So what he's saying is the very first part of that is, the reason for it is to lay taxes. The purpose of it is to provide for the general welfare. So he says, "To consider the latter phrase not as describing the purpose of the first, but as giving a distinct and independent power to do any act they please, which might be for the good of the Union, would render all the preceding and subsequent enumerations of power completely useless. It would reduce the whole instrument to a single phrase, that of instituting a Congress with power to do whatever would be for the good of the United States, and as they would be the sole judges of good or evil, it would also be a power to do whatever evil they pleased."
Oh my goodness, I just got the shivers hearing that quote. That is prescient.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. I mean, 200, almost nearly 200 years later, it still rings true in these turbulent times today. Thomas Jefferson, people should very much study him and his legacy, because he's a very, very important to our democracy.
Absolutely. And so, in regards to that, now again, this particular case was discussing Article 1, Section 8, Paragraph 1, and I won't go into a lot of details, but essentially what this court said is that although the President does have the power to see that the laws are faithfully complied with, since Congress did not put any limits or conditions on the granting of this money, even to sanctuary cities, the President was without authority to do so himself.
Absolutely. I want to talk about that. I want to talk specifically about 8 U.S. Code 1373, which has been in the news recently. And then I want to talk, there's this great case, you guys, that Richard has brought to me, the South Dakota versus Dole, which is absolutely fascinating. We're going to talk about that later on as well. So stay with us. We are here, Richard Nixon Live in the Legal Lounge here on CRN Digital Talk Radio. We'll be right back right after the break. Stay with us. Give us a call. Any questions, comments, concerns, 818-818-6401. Also, hit us up on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/CRN Talk, and we are streaming live on video right now. Be right back, right after the break.
Have you purchased a wine refrigerator or put a wine cellar in your home? Maybe you have a new wine rack. Great news, but what wines will you buy to stock your wine rack? Let me, Michael Horn, help. I'll find the wines for your wine cellar with your taste in mind. We'll determine what varietals, Cabernet, Pinot, Chardonnay, what types of wine, California, French, Italian, you like. We'll find you one-of-a-kind wines from all of our friends we interview daily on the What's Cooking Show and the What's Cooking on Wine Show. On a budget, we'll find you the best affordable wines. Want hard-to-get library wines? We can source those for you, too. And if you need cigars, let LA Rams sports legend and iconic actor Fred Dreyer make your selections. Hey, we could even host a wine dinner for you or set up a sports cigar party with Fred. Call me, Michael Horn, at the What's Cooking Today show. Call 818-818-6400. That's 818-818-6400. Let us find the dream wines of your lifetime.
You check things all the time, like your email every 10 seconds, or your ex's Instagram. But what about checking something as important as your credit? Well, Discover makes it quick, easy, and best of all, free. Discover is now offering FICO credit scores to everyone for free, even if you're not a customer. And checking your score won't hurt your credit. We call it the Discover Credit Scorecard. And once you know your score, you should check to see if your current credit card is the best fit for you. Check your credit, compare your card. Go to discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply.
When you really want Italian food, you've got to get to Colombos. Colombos Italian Steakhouse and Jazz Club, Colorado Boulevard, Eagle Rock. It's that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. Seekers of luscious and appetizing gustatorial pursuits, indulge your fancies with steaks so absolutely yum-yum. Vegetarians have forsaken kale and Pilates and never look back. Fish specialties so fresh and delicious and chosen by King Neptune himself, and relish Colombo's Italian family specialties so delectable you'll be yelling out, "Bravo, bravo!" And let's not forget Colombo's world-famous meatballs, and you've got to try their breakfast pizza. Oh, and jazz every night. Service that's friendly, not fawning, and at a price that'll keep you coming back. That's Colombos, that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. Colombos, manja.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call MyFlightSearchcom for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call MyFlightSearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call MyFlightSearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call MyFlightSearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
Destination, South Pointe. 11 great restaurants, bingo, bowling, movies, race books, sports books, spa, live entertainment, oversized rooms, and the rates unbeatable. The South Pointe, Las Vegas. Book now. Online at southpointecasino.com or call 866-791-7626. southpointecasino.com or call 866-791-7626. At the South Pointe, Las Vegas, you're always a winner.
And welcome back, Richard Nixon Live. We are streaming live in the Legal Lounge here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, as well as Facebook. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/CRN Talk. Also, check out our website, CRNTalk.com, for all of your high-quality broadcasting needs. We are talking all things constitutional with a noted attorney and author, Richard Nixon. Also, he's a recreational conga player as well. So, Richard, we were talking, this show, we talk a lot about constitutional issues. Specifically, we really focus on, really how the Supreme Court and other branches of government have each independently have almost usurped control from the people. And one of the ways they have done it, not only by the Supreme Court, but also is by the power of the purse. And we talked about that at the beginning of the show, but I want to get deeper into that. And so by 1913, the United States federal government had the ability to collect federal income taxes. They had this a giant federal income tax base, but now it provided that the states did what they want. They dispersed those monies to the states individually. Is that correct? Do I have that right?
Yes. The 16th Amendment, ratified in 1913, basically says that Congress has the power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from wherever derived. And again, this was contrary to the Founding Fathers. They wanted no connection between the federal government and the people. Originally, it was set up where only the states could tax the people, And the states would submit money to the federal government, and they would only submit it, it would be based upon their population, and they would only submit the money if they approved of what Congress was doing. So this is how they put essentially the states in charge of what the federal government did. And that's the design, that's how it was set up. But as we said, in 1913, with the advent of the 16th Amendment, the federal government could tax directly the people, and therefore the state's authority or influence was taken out of that mix. And now the senators, and now the taxpayers could be possibly jailed for not paying their taxes, and the federal government was in charge.
And it's not like the federal government said, hey, Mr. Individual States, we'll take care of the taxes. You don't have to tax anybody anymore.
That's right.
Here in beautiful sunny California, we get double because we pay the federal and the state income tax.
That's right. And then as time went on, that was 1913. As time went on, what happened is the courts, and actually with the aid of Congress, decided that what they could do now, remember we talked about how the 14th Amendment due process clause, how the Supreme Court was clever in defining the due process clause to include applying the Bill of Rights to the states, so that the Supreme Court was in control of the states. Now this is another mechanism by which the Supreme Court or Congress went around Article 1, Section 8, which was supposed to be the limitations on Congress. And what they did now with the Congress amassing all these funds through the 16th Amendment and their ability to tax the people directly, they were able to essentially, I'll use the term blackmail the states, by going around the Article 1, Section 8 and saying to the states essentially, if you want to continue to receive funds from the federal government to do X, Y, Z, in this case, to continue your interstate roads, you must do so-and-so. And this so-and-so would be something that heretofore the federal government had no authority to do. It was not one of the rights in Article 1, Section 8. In this particular case, in the South Dakota versus Dole case, 1987, basically what the Congress said is, if you want continued funds for your highway construction, you must raise the drinking age of young people to 21.
We were talking about this case before, and when I was how its implications on constitutional powers, the limited powers and enumerated powers, I was thinking it was going to be something really serious,
Yes.
like it was going to be about, the Alien Sedition Act or something like that. But it boils down to the fact that the federal government wanted to enforce a nationwide drinking age of 21. This
Yes.
is in the late 70s, early 80s. And they said to South Dakota, South Dakota's always been kind of, I wouldn't call it the live free or die state because that's New Hampshire, but they do things differently in South
Yes.
Dakota. And, they wanted to have their drinking age 18, which, Texas was for many years, when the
Yes.
feds came in and said, look, either you raise your drinking age to 21 like the rest of the
Right.
states, or we're gonna withhold funds, transportation funds, which can be very, very dangerous to motorists because of
Right.
crumbling infrastructure. We're gonna all different sorts of federal funds. And you know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like to me extortion.
Yes, and you see, the interesting thing, the seductive thing, is that a lot of people would agree with that had they, and most people are not privy to the basis of the Constitution, a lot of people would say that's a good idea. Every state should have the same laws. Kids should all have to be 21 before they can drink and so on. But again, our purpose here, Mike, and I think you'll agree, is to simply go by what the Constitution permits or demands, and it's clearly outside the bailiwick and authority of Congress to pass such a law and to force the states to comply.
There's a similar case too. I'm pretty sure I remember this from memory about speed limits. There's a similar case regarding speed limits. I believe that came out of Texas because Texas had a 75-mile-an-hour speed limit, and because of the oil crisis and emissions in the 70s, the federal government wanted to reduce the speed limit to 55. And that goes back to another principle we've talked about in previous shows, which is the loss of community standards when it comes to law. Because, for example, I can understand a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit in a very urban area, for example, Rhode Island, like the Northeast.
Yes.
But for states with a very, very large open spaces with very little traffic, with long highways like Texas and the Midwest, it makes no sense to have different speed limits for those environments.
That's exactly right. And again, as you mentioned, we're getting back to the real need for local control as opposed to federal control, but of course the tendency is going the other way. This is why I think it's interesting at this time that would have a president who certainly is worthy of much criticism, who seems to understand this and is attempting to pick and has so far picked two Supreme Court justices who would, I think, if given the chance, solve a number of these problems that are presented by this. They would roll back a lot of this, I'd say, pseudo-federal authority that the Constitution never granted it.
Absolutely. I want to talk more about this case after the break because it's fascinating. I want to talk about the decision because the Supreme Court held 7-2 that the statute represented a valid use of congressional authority under the spending clause. And I want to ask you, Richard, about the spending clause and more about this case because it's absolutely fascinating. We'll be right back, you guys. Richard Nixon Live. We're here in the Legal Lounge. CRNTalk.com. Give us a call, 818-818-6401. We'll be right back right after the break.
You sit at a desk. They sit at a desk. You have sales reports. They have book reports. You need supplies. They need supplies. Business is a lot like school. That's why your small business should take advantage of back-to-school deals at Staples. This week, Staples 120-sheet filler paper is just 50 cents. Plus, a 10-ream case of multi-purpose paper is only $32.99. Make back-to-school your business at Staples.
While supplies last. In-store only. Offer ends 8/18/18. Limit 5 on filler paper, 10 on case paper.
Your car's engine deals with pressures that can cause intense friction that can
waste up to 10% of engine performance.
Power up with Castrol Edge with fluid titanium technology. It's 3 times stronger than leading oils against viscosity breakdown. Buy 5 quarts of Castrol Edge and a Purolator Boss filter for $32.99 at Advance or participating CarQuest Auto Parts stores. 3 times stronger based on Kurt Orban test. 5W 30 days great.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Their expert staff can help you turn your book idea into a real book, a masterpiece that could someday make the bestseller list in hard copy and digitally all across the world. Page Publishing can help you completely take your idea for a book, write it, and publish it. So if you want to join the ranks of some of the most famous authors in the world, call now for a free information kit. Turn your book idea into publishing gold. Make a free call right now to Page Publishing.
800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. That's 800-378-3212.
And we are back here. Richard Nixon Live in the Legal Lounge on CRNTalk.com. That's CRNTalk.com. You can check us out. Watch us on Facebook Live right now, Facebook.com/CRNTalk. I'm joined by Richard Nixon. He's a practicing attorney, a Vietnam-era vet. He's a bachelor in physics, a doctor of law, and author, America, An Illusion of Freedom, available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and as well as iTunes. And I just want to wrap up this. This is such a fascinating case to me. South Dakota versus Dole about the drinking age. The federal government used the drinking age to codify their powers over the states, and the Supreme Court they held it up. They held up this decision that the statute representing the valid use of congressional authority under the spending clause, and that the statute did not infringe upon the rights of the states. I think you and I both disagree. There's some general points of the decision that the spending must promote the general welfare. We just talked about that in Section 1, Article 1, Section 8, excuse me. And the condition must be unambiguous, which is very interesting, and the condition must relate to the federal interest in a particular national projects or program. Once again, very, very vague language that can be interpreted really any way you want.
Well, it's vague language, and again, it exceeds the constitutional power given to Congress via Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. none of the 18 enumerated powers say anything about speed limits, alcohol consumption. The only thing that empowered the Congress to do this with the sanctions of the Supreme Court was the fact that after the 16th Amendment, Congress was able to tax us, tax the people. And now that they had all this money, they could go back to the states and essentially bribe them into doing what the Constitution otherwise would not have permitted.
It's always Congress that leaves the fun stuff out, right? Like the speeding and drinking, right?
Right.
I want to talk about, we were talking before the show about, I want to, kind of take us back a little bit and talk more about, about something more philosophical than actual, textual. And we were talking about this during the break, that it seems like all the relevant discussions about law, about politics, about important issues aren't discussed anymore outside of the courtroom.
Well, that's right. In fact, this case that we're talking about today, this case from the Ninth Circuit, is a case in point because the majority opinion written by, held by 2 of the 3 justices has some very valid points, as does the dissent written by Circuit Judge Fernandez, who basically says that although Congress had a right to put conditions on the giving of this money to the states, which of course we disagree with, that Congress really had no right to add a condition to Article 1, Section 8. But having said so, Justice Fernandez says the President shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. So we can't ignore the fact that the President is here and he's saying to the states, we have this law passed by Congress, 1373, and we're a new sheriff in town, and you will, states, you will comply with this. And as added impetus for you to comply, we, that is the executive branch, will take money from what is already authorized to you if you don't stop with your sanctuary city opposition. And the dissent says we have to consider that. Further, that there's been no injury inflicted on anyone yet. This is a proposal. This is a law that is being held up by the courts, and it's very possible that there will be no damage suffered by the city of San Francisco or Santa Clara until we see what happens. In other words, if this law were to go into effect, it's possible those cities would say, you know what, it's not worth it. We're going to comply, and therefore no one would be injured. And so I believe the dissent's opinion should have prevailed today, because there's no concrete evidence that anyone's been injured at this point.
Because it's the city that's raising the issue of damage, not actual individuals themselves.
Exactly.
As an individual, I mean, if you were deported, you can maybe, under circumstances that maybe weren't ideal or legal, you can show damage that way. But a city themselves, how can they show a damage for a policy that really hasn't happened yet?
They can't. And you see, within the law, when it comes to the authority of the judicial branch, they have to show that cases are ripe and concrete and ready for adjudication. If people haven't been injured, you can't speculate and say, I might be injured someday, therefore I want you to rule against the defendant. No, the courts won't entertain it. And that's what the dissent is saying. But before we leave that, I would like to read just one very brief thing here from that case. It said, there can be no doubt that the President had the authority and the duty to see that duly adopted laws were faithfully executed and to direct his subordinates to that end. One way a President does it is through executive orders. And that is what the President did here. The courts do not treat executive orders with disdain, but read and construe them in much the same way a statute should be treated. And the courts do not properly construe executive orders based upon the court's own policy preferences. In fact, at least where the disposition required by the text is not absurd, is to enforce it according to its terms. Unfortunately, the district court did not follow these rules. So basically, he's a little upset that his majority didn't follow and give respect to this executive order, which kind of suggests maybe a political bias. Now again, it's both sides are very well fleshed out. If a person wants to read this case, it's well worth the reading. But in conclusion, this is what Fernandez said. While the counties may be convinced that the executive order loosed a fearsome chimera upon them, and does not mean that the courts should take up arms to vanquish the imagined beast by slaying the executive order itself.
Chef Charlie Palmer and winemaker Clay Morrison are announcing the 8th annual Project Zinn event taking place Friday, August 17th and 18th at Hotel Healdsburg in Healdsburg, California. It's a big weekend event offering a series of dining and educational events hosted by Chef Palmer, Clay Morrison, and some of the industry's most elite winemakers. Project Zinn lines up 21 of the most highly acclaimed Zinfandel wines for tasting, and Project 21 has the number 21, a significant number in most cases of Down syndrome because there's an extra copy of chromosome 21, which changes the body and the brain's normal development. New this year, the big seminar called Whose Zin Is It Anyway? Also a big vineyard lunch at Rockpile AVA with Clay and Carrie Morrison, and the big Project Zinn event Saturday evening where you sample 21 of the finest Zins. Get tickets and more information by going to projectzin.org. ProjectZin, ZIN.org/tickets. ProjectZin.org/tickets.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call MyFlightSearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call MyFlightSearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call MyFlightSearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call MyFlightSearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
You order a glass of your favorite Cabernet, fresh asparagus, hollandaise on the side, a filet, medium rare. You unfurl your napkin with a flair, close your eyes, and prepare to listen. Ah, there it is. The sweet music you long to hear. The sizzle. The sizzle of a Ruths Chris steak.
The most magnificent corn-fed prime beef, broiled to perfection at 1800 degrees. Some call it a sizzle. We call it an anthem.
As the waiter approaches, you think, is this one mine or that one?
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Like Ruth always said, life's too short to eat anywhere else.
Make a reservation online at ruthschris.com or by calling 800-544-0808.
And we are back. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge here, wrapping things up here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world. I'm joined by Richard Nixon. He's an author, an attorney, a constitutional scholar, and he's author of America, An Illusion of Freedom. If you liked what we're talking about, all these topics that we've been discussing, check out his book, America, An Illusion of Freedom, available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and as well on iTunes. And Richard, just to wrap things up here, I love that we brought up Thomas Jefferson. He's one of my favorite founding fathers. He's an amazing man, amazing story. Actually passed away on the 4th of July, which I think is a prescient thing. Him and John Adams both passed away on the 4th of July. And he had some interesting, I think right now he'd be pretty upset about the way things are going right now. How, the Constitution these days doesn't control Congress at all. What do you think TJ would say about this kind of stuff?
Well, again, Thomas Jefferson was a Democrat, a small d. He believed in the states' rights. And Adams, who was the second president after Washington, was like Washington, more like a Federalist, and Chief Justice Marshall was also a Federalist. So they were all pro-federal government, so to speak. Now, the word Federalist has changed its meaning
it's
now.
Different. Yeah, no.
It's flipped now to the point where they're more or less pro-states' rights people. But again, what's happened is, and we can see the trend, contrary to what the Founding Fathers intended, that the federal government, by one mechanism or another, for instance, the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment we've talked about before, has been misused to apply the Bill of Rights to the states. At that point, once that was done, then the Supreme Court could delve into and micromanage each state to see if they obeyed the Bill of Rights, first 10 amendments, which were originally intended to apply the federal government only. Well, since 1913, and the federal government was permitted to tax people individually on their income, they had another mechanism by which they could control the states and the people, and that was to amass all these funds and to essentially bribe the states that if they did certain things, they would get their continued funds for highway projects and so on. And as we mentioned, South Dakota versus Dole was just one example of something fairly trivial, the age of drinking in South Dakota from 18 to 21, which really, I can't imagine why Congress was even concerned with that. But the point is, they should be controlled. The Constitution clearly limits Congress's power to Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 1 through 18. And to go outside that is a clear violation of the Constitution by Congress with the okay of our Supreme Court.
Once again, the abdication of duty by multiple branches of government.
Absolutely.
For political reasons, for power reasons, for economic reasons, it's just it's amazing. It's quite an education you've been giving me and our audience as well. So we thank you for that, sir.
Oh, you're so welcome.
You guys, we are here in the Legal Lounge. We are here every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time here on CRN Digital Talk Radio. You want more of this? Make sure to check out Richard's website. It's www.res37thwix.com/America. That's www.pres37thwix.com/America. And I will include that website in our YouTube videos and as well on our Facebook page. We really appreciate everybody for being here with us. We are here, like I said, here every week. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can send Richard an email, richardnixon@crntalk.com. You can leave us a message on Facebook, crntalk.com on Facebook, or just give us a call, 818-818-6401. That's 818-818-6401. Once again, I want to thank Richard Nixon. He's an attorney.
Thank you.
He's a Vietnam-era vet, and like you said, if you served with Richard, while he was stateside or while he was abroad in country in Vietnam in 1968, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back next week. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much to Debbie Barrera in front for all the hard work she's done, for Matthew Passant as well. I am Mike Gary. Be back next week. Richard, thank you. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, and thank them. Thank you very much.
Because that was your theme.
Are you tired of hearing your favorite talk radio show sound like this? What if you could hear your favorite shows in crystal clear, high-definition digital sound? Well, with CRN Digital Talk Radio's 6 channels of high-definition radio, you can now hear all of your favorite hosts like you've never heard them before in CRN HD. The difference is amazing. Catch your favorite political hosts like Dennis Prager, Tom Hartman, Barry Farber, and so many more. Entertainment and lifestyle programming like The Robert Conrad Show, The What's Cooking Show, and The What's Cooking on Wine Show, all in true CRN HD audio. Sports, business, travel, food, wine, politics, there is something for everyone, and it's all available in CRN High Definition Sound. Log on to www.crntalk for listings and information on all your favorite shows. That's www.crntalk.com.